Welcome to the Jaros Health Podcast, where we make it easy for you to better serve older adults through our content that informs, community that inspires, and courses that deliver.
Hello, welcome to the Jaros Health Podcast, where we make it easy for you to better serve older adults. I'm your host, Tali Spaceman, and with me is Nicole and this is the Research Says segment, where we take a look at what the lab has to say about what we do in the clinic. In today's episode, we will discuss the recent data about death from falls and the increase of it in the United States in the past several years. Something that bothers us all, which is death from falls.
Actually, what bothers us more than the fact about death from falls is the fact that they've increased.
According to a newly published article in JAMA, it was published somewhere in June 2019.
What's crazy is that if you look at it, it was more than double. Not only did it increase from 2000 to 2016, adults 75 and older were dying from falls-related injuries at more than double the 2000 rate. That is a travesty. There's no other way to say that. The fact that over 16 years it got worse when we should have been getting better is astounding to me.
It increased from 8,613 in 2000 to 25,189 in 2016. 42.1 per 100,000 people in those ages between 75 to 79, and 590.7 for individual age 95 and older.
I don't know what's more astounding here, the fact that 590.7 individuals were aged 95 or older, or the fact that that many people died from falls. Like that's not even the total, that's per 100,000. That's crazy to me. Are we seeing the downside of living longer, Tali, or are we just seeing like intervention? I mean, I know we're seeing need, but like, what do you think we're seeing here?
I think we're seeing both, and it's not a polite thing to say, but yes, living longer has its downsides. It means that have more chronic diseases, and that when we get to those older ages, we are more fragile. It doesn't mean that you automatically, when you're older, you're fragile, but yes, you are more prone to damages from things that if it happened when you're 40, probably take a week off work and be fine.
Yeah, and you know what worries me too is that I wonder, what are we lacking in our services to people in this age bracket? We are living longer, and we need to realize that that comes with need. And are we lacking in services for that need? I had a lot of thoughts while I was reading this.
I had a lot of thoughts too. It's okay. That's why we talk, to share our thoughts. So automatically when something like this so astonishing is being published, and it says the death in the U.S. of older adults as a result from fall has increased so tremendously, I always try to say, okay, how do things look in other countries? And when, for example, I checked the UK, it's kind of similar. They have an increase by 70%. The NSH, which is kind of like the English version of the CDC.
Well, the NSH, isn't that like overall their national health services?
Yeah, exactly. Their national health services. So it's kind of like the CDC in that way, that they have all the information about diseases and health status in the UK, and the CDC does the same in the US. So there are some similarities. Before they published it, and we did a segment about it last year, how they found out that people die out of loneliness.
Yeah, I remember that one, actually. That was pretty astounding.
Mostly because I got to quote a lot of Beatles songs, like All the Lonely People.
I think that was the title. Look it up. That's the title. All the Lonely People. It was masterful, and I highly recommend that everyone goes and downloads it right now. All the Lonely People. Check it out.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it, truly. But the thing is that once they found out that this is one of the reasons that people die and cost so much money to the country, they actually did something about it. They had a minister that is in charge of those things and in charge of accumulating all the research and seeing what can be done in order to prevent things that are preventable. At some point, people need to die.
I know where you're going with that, but it sounds terrible. I think what you're saying is that like death is a natural part of the human experience, right? That's what you meant.
Thank you for rephrasing.
Death is a natural part of the human experience. None of us get away without dying. It's going to happen.
Yes, thank you. What I like to do when information about one country comes is to compare it to other country. But inside the US, you have the fabulous thing called states. So you can actually compare one state to another and see what is happening inside states. When I was reading the article and I was in my head thinking, okay, why are they dying? Is it because it's too far away to get, in some places inside the US, you need to drive for 2.5 hours in order to get help. In some older people that especially live in rural areas can be for a week without anyone coming to check on them, especially if they don't have a family, or even if they have a family that lives far away. Is it healthcare and insurance problem? For example, I checked what the differences between states and has it increased in all states, and it did not. I have to say that there were actually 3 states in which the death rate from fall went down.
And those are?
Those are Hawaii, New Mexico, and Vermont.
No, so now I know where to retire to.
Yeah. Not Florida, it's the obvious.
Not Florida, no.
And the ones that it actually increased the most was Oklahoma, Maine, and Wisconsin.
Both of those to me sound like kind of random collections of things, but I'm guessing there's probably some policy reasoning behind it.
So they are kind of random. And I was trying in my head to think, okay, are those places where winters are very hard?
You said it was Ohio, Wisconsin, and where else?
And Maine.
Maine. Well, Maine has some rough winters, but Vermont is just south of it, so that's...
Yeah, so I was trying to look up policies. It was almost impossible.
They're hard to find.
They are very hard to find, so I'm sorry that I wasn't able to do that. And also there was a comparison when it comes to population demographics. For example, they did a comparison of urban versus rural status.
Okay.
And they were kind of all the same, like 3.4, 3.3 in a large fringe metro, medium metro, small metro, or non-core. So it's like not a metro. In large central metro, however, it was 2.2. There was still an increase, but the increase was significantly smaller.
Was this just in the states that you mentioned, or is this across the board?
It's across the board.
Okay.
And that got me to think in places like, for example, like in Hawaii, there was a decrease. So I thought to myself, okay, maybe it's like islands. There's a little bit more sense of community. So people take care of each other. Constantly in Oklahoma, they're pretty big.
Yeah. And even Maine's pretty, for a New England state, Maine is big. And it's rural.
For me, that was interesting that in a large central metro, the increase was significantly lower.
I do wonder if that's just because of having like more interaction with your neighbors. I'd like to see, was it that people were more likely to find them? They got help quicker. Those are the kinds of things that I wonder. I didn't find anything about that. I couldn't find a good reason either.
Yeah.
But that would definitely be something worth... I don't know how you would explore it, to be honest, because those things are kind of hard to find, and you really have to dig in, I think, to your location to see more what like community is like there.
Yeah, in that case, I think that the CDC would maybe have information from cities themselves if it is actually possible to get those, but I'm not sure. Also, they did a race and ethnicity dividing.
Okay.
And it was the most in white non-Hispanic and black non-Hispanic, with 3.4 for white non-Hispanic and 3.2 for black non-Hispanic. And in Asian Pacific Islanders, the increase was only 1.5. In Hispanics, it was 1.2. And in American Indian and Alaskan Natives, there was actually a decrease in death from falls.
Wow. Again, these are like, I would love to see what this looks like pulled apart as like a cultural picture. Like what are the factors within the cultural aspects of each family that is kind of guiding this? That's some pretty clear definition right there. I mean, those rates are significant.
Yeah, more than double in white non-Hispanic and black non-Hispanic. If any of you listeners is a nerd enough to look those data and kind of get into your own conspiracy theory or a web, go to the cdc.gov website, and they're pretty clear and really nice graphs, I have to say.
Oh, and we know how Tali loves a graph.
Listen, I'm dyslexic. I like when there's just a graph.
I agree. There is something about a nice laid out graph that is just very fantastic.
So when this article came out in JAMA only 2 months ago, the authors of the article said the reason for the increase in death resulting from falls is not fully understood. Still, they write, while older adults clearly have the highest risk of falls, they also have the highest potential for cost-effective interventions that make a difference. And that's where we come in.
Yeah, and that's something that we definitely have to start looking at. Is we know the potential is there. We know we have the skills to address it. So where do we go? So Tali, I'm going to read a little bit more if you don't mind. So the researchers for this study designed a randomized controlled trial, and they looked specifically at the Otago exercise program. And I know we've talked about Otago before. I know it's been brought up in the group a few times. People seem to generally have a good experience with it, both clinicians and clients. You tend to hear good things. So they specifically looked at this Otago exercise program for adults over age 70 who had previously experienced a fall. Where this gets a little murky for me, and also like a little bit disappointing, I guess, is patients were randomly assigned to receive 12 months of usual care.
Yes, thank you.
Or usual care plus the home-based strength and balance retraining program.
Yeah, I don't know what usual care is.
Yeah, I mean, it says that it included fall risk and medical assessment, treatment by a geriatrician, and lifestyle recommendations. But was there PT provided in there, or were they not seen by a PT? And then also, like, I'm kind of frightened by the idea that usual care for a fall would not be seeing a PT, or also the fact that usual care, including a PT, would not include a home-based strengthening program. Like, what are you doing in there if you're not doing strengthening and balance interventions, I guess? I guess I'm just kind of confused as to like what usual care says, and kind of disappointed by the idea that we would even have people who have fallen who get things that weren't including therapy, especially when we're starting from 2000. It's like long ago, but not. We've come a long way. Let's just say that. Like, we've come a long way.
Okay, usual care, what do you mean by that? And then I read, I'm like, I did not hear the word physical therapy. You're not going to give them more medication. Polypharmacy is one of the reasons they fall. Okay, mm-hmm. It's also one of the reasons that they die from fall. Research shows that polypharmacy, which is taking more than 4 medications chronically and regularly, increase phenomenally the risk of fall and the risk of dying from a fall. So a geriatrician comes and maybe adjusts the meds. But I really don't understand how come PT and giving at least a few sessions for balance and for home safety is not part of fall preventions for someone who already fell.
Like I said, I guess this is also a testament to where we've come in 16 years, and that we have things that we can offer now. The fact that it still went up in 16 years. I'm trying to find if I can see like when the Otago program started.
Fall risk are basically divided intrinsic and extrinsic, age, female, living alone, arthritis of the knees, stroke, Parkinson's disease, hypertension, diabetes, osteoporosis, chronic conditions, urinary incontinence, cognitive impairment, depressive symptoms, poor vision, postural hypotension, weak hand grip strength, self-perceived poor health, and previous history of falls and fear of falling. Extrinsic, use of 4 or more prescribed drugs, use of hypotonic antidepressant and tranquilizers like benzodiazepines and stuff like that, use of a walking aid, mobility impairment, balance deficits, gait deficits, inappropriate footwear or foot problems, and environment and home hazards. Now, I want to talk about a little bit of the pharmacy. I remember there was a reason I wanted to go over those factors. The use of antidepressants and tranquilizers in the US is one of the highest in the world.
Is it really?
Yes. I don't want to go into like pharmaceuticals and all that.
It's also, I want to make it clear that we don't think it's bad to have to use medications. Like, let's just throw that out there. Like, we're not shaming you for medications. We're just saying you need to be aware of what the risks of your medications are.
Definitely not. I'm a big fan of medication when it's needed.
Same.
I do think that it is very important to know the risks. So it's like with any other medical service you get, whether it's a medication or surgery, people should know the risks before they take it, or at least when they take it. For example, I had a patient that was using gabapentin for her pain, and she said the doctor said it has no side effects. There's no medication with no side effects.
Yes.
She did not understand why she had blurry vision. Again, not against medication. They do great. If we didn't have, we probably would die earlier.
Well, there's a reason we're talking about death rates in people above the age of 95 right now, right?
Yes, and not about death from diphtheria.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're talking about possibly preventable deaths in people over the age of 95. Like, that is a testament to the medical profession and medication and science right there.
Yes, we are counting our blessings that people don't die in childbirth as much as they did. But we're trying to make it better because we're greedy.
We want to be healthy while we're living to 120, darn it.
Yeah, did you find what you wanted?
I did, actually. So I'm looking at this article about the Otago program.
What is the Otago program? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So the Otago program is exercises that are overseen by a physical therapist. There are strengthening exercises, there are balance exercises, and there is a walking component also. And the whole purpose is to increase in difficulty over time, and it's monitored by the PT. And what's crazy about it is there were no significant, in this study at least, there were no significant differences between groups in fall risk, general balance, and mobility, but the falls were significantly reduced amongst those who completed the Otago program. So 236 falls compared to 366 for those who received only usual care. The rate was 1.4 per person year for the Otago group compared with 2.1 for the usual care group. That's wild. But what I was really looking at was I was trying to figure out, like, when did the Otago program come out? And so I'm looking at it. It is a New Zealand program. It was developed in New Zealand. So, go Kiwis.
It's named after the University of Otago. And now they're like kind of spread all over the world with that program. They have places in India and Israel and Turkey, the United States. It's just going to name states.
So there were 4 major trials. Trial 1, the results were published in 1997. Trial 2 in the Journal of American Geriatric Society in 1999. And then we're looking at Trial 3, 2001, Trial 4, 2001, Process and Impact Evaluation, 2002, Meta-analysis of the 4 trials, Journal of American Geriatric Society, 2002, and there was another article in 2001. So we are looking at a program that was shown to reduce falls that was created in the late 90s, and the evidence came out in the early 2000s.
We knew those things when Britney Spears just came out.
I like your framing.
Just so people would understand the timeline.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, since this has come out, death rate from falls increased. And here we were in the early 2000s with activities that were being shown to decrease the fall rate. So we are looking at articles from the early 2000s showing a way to reduce falls, and we're showing an increased death rate from falls after those articles were released. That just shows us the importance of increasing the focus on evidence and just really paying attention to what's going on out there, because the answers, and I'm not saying these are entirely the answers, but an answer has been there.
And it's not going to work on everybody. And again,
yeah, it's not perfect. It's not the only solution, but there was an answer, and
we just didn't implement it.
I mean, if that's not a call to action, Tali, I don't know what is.
It is. So use what you know, it helps. It's not going to solve the whole thing, but
again, I don't want people thinking we're like laying blame on each other, because I've been a therapist during this time period here. And I just think it highlights the importance of like the saying, when you know better, you do better.
Yeah.
And I think we just need to really make sure that as many of us know better as is possible, right? Which is the whole mission of Geros Health anyway. And that's why, you know, there's so much emphasis on increasing the degree programs and everything like that, because we do better when we know better. And it's a matter of making sure that we are, and holding ourselves accountable. And, you know, we can't be like, oh, I didn't do this before. Oh, like our profession didn't see this. Oh my God. Like, shake it off.
Yeah.
We need to move forward. Like, we've seen this now. Let's all share the information, and let's move forward.
Yeah, I think you're very much right. And that's the whole aim of this podcast and all this community, to make ourselves better and to give the best care for older adults. And the best care of today is not the best care of tomorrow.
Exactly.
But sometimes the best care, and again, not the best, but one of the best options for care has been around for 20 years, and for some reason we just don't use it. I don't want to blame policy. I have to say that since I have moved to the US, I have a little bit harder time to provide some of the things I really want to provide, just because it's not billable. And because things take a long time for us as professionals to show insurance companies that this is helpful and therefore you should give me money to do this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you even look at this study, the individuals were followed, they were seen by a physician at 6 months and 12 months. I mean, if I see somebody 3 weeks, like, I'm lucky.
Yeah.
So this is actually like a lot of extended programming. This is a lot of community-based programming and community care that I think we need to start looking into. I don't know. I don't have all the answers, for sure. I don't think anyone expects us to have the answers.
Oh, yeah. Oh, listen. Yeah.
If you're expecting Tali and I to have all the answers.
Listen, U.S. governments and APTA and all the thousands of people that have have their life to this profession, we have an answer.
I think if people are expecting all the answers from Tali and I's conversations, like, y'all are in for a long wait.
Oh, well. And disappointment. I don't care about the wait. There will be disappointment.
But seriously, it looks like what the program focuses on is strengthening, balance, and walking. And I feel like a lot of other conversations we've had and a lot of other studies we've looked at have shown strengthening and balance training specifically to also be very important. Walking, at least, is something that we can generally encourage people to do on their own. I think encouraging community activity and mobility is also encouraging people to walk, because I feel like when people are isolated, going back to the isolation and the loneliness, like, how many people are walking that much in their house when they're alone, when they're lonely? Like, who's really pacing their halls that much? No, you're like laying on your couch and watching TV. At least that's what I would do if I was lonely.
Yeah. I wish there was a program of like youth volunteer that just walk with older people.
I recommend that people join mall walking groups, which sounds ridiculous, but you're indoors, it's climate controlled, you have an even surface. It builds community because you're walking with others generally. Yeah. And then they get snacks afterward. All of it sounds fantastic to me.
And it's safe. They have a defibrillator around. Just in case something happens. It's good to be prepared. I think you're right. And again, we go to the thing of loneliness, and it's not just dying of broken heart. It's kind of like how they did a research a few years ago that women that are actually well groomed, like put makeup on and put nail polish on, don't get detected in time for some diseases, because when they go to their doctor, then, for example, when they go to their doctor, he doesn't see discoloration of nails because they're colored, and doesn't see any marks on the face because there's makeup on. So I feel that those people may be not seen enough by other people. Say, for example, hey, you've been coughing for the past 6 months. You should go and see someone about that. Or I noticed that you kind of drug your foot. So community is important.
I think I don't know, I haven't done research in these things, so I don't want to say whatever, but I just keep seeing like the importance of community come up in articles, the importance of interaction, the importance of being out in the community, all those articles about like how far you walk. It just seems like we also need to build community and build the ability to have conversations with our patients about things that concern us. Falls are definitely something, they're a hard topic, I feel like, because a lot of people don't want to admit that they're falling, because increased falls can lead to loss of independence. And the more you can hide that, the longer you can kind of keep yourself independent, right? Even if it's dangerous. And so I feel like we need to be more open about things. I don't know how to always have those conversations without scaring people off, but I feel like it's something like as you develop a relationship with your patients, be able to have those conversations. I try to tell people, tell me what's going on, because the sooner we address it, the better I can address it. Will be better and easier to deal with if we deal with it early.
I feel that in our profession, there are so many hard conversations that we need to put our like big girl or big boy scrubs on and have, because it's not, I don't want to be impolite or I don't want to be intrusive. No, you're actually saving lives or saving quality of life. In our profession, we need to have hard conversation, whether it's about falls, whether it's about incontinence, whether it's about inability to work anymore or do your own ADLs by yourself.
Yeah.
And many other topics. And I think that yes, for everyone, there's a thing when you say it out loud, it exists, and that's what
yes.
You can't just ignore it anymore once you said it out loud, because it's there. The demon is real. But I have to say that once you say it out loud, it's no longer a demon. It's an enemy that you can actually fight.
These are some wise words, Tali. So we will link the article. So this article that Tali and I are discussing is from PT in Motion, and it is open for everybody on the APTA website. It has a bunch of links contained within it. Some are to the PT Now, which has a lot of evidence-based practice ideas on there. It's a good resource, but that's members only. There are some other things on there. There is a link to the Balance and Falls webpage on the APTA website. There's a good chunk of the articles on there are open access also, and there's some that are a little bit more community focused, which is nice. There's also some continuing ed options. And then there's some other resources, the National Council on Aging, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, National Institute for Aging, caregiver stress thing. So that's definitely worth checking out for PTs. You could also, like I said, get some good community insights there if you are working with community members or you know somebody you think would benefit from that. I would also like to point out that National Falls Prevention Awareness Day is Monday, September 23rd. Click on that link and see if there's anything going on near you. That's it. I really just hope that we can, take what we've learned and move forward. I know falls are huge for a lot of us. I know, especially in my setting in the SNF, there's always that line of like, how much independence do you give people versus how likely are they to fall? It's a constant tightrope that we're walking all the time. And I know that there's a time crunch. I know there's so many factors, but really just try to address what you can. And the most time efficient way to do it is by looking at strengthening exercises. And I do want to point out that a lot of the ones on the Otago program are in standing.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we had a whole discussion about sitting versus standing, and
if you don't have to sit,
yeah,
get as much standing in there as you can. Sometimes you have to sit. Like, let's be real, I've had some pretty low-level patients, but...
And we actually did talk about, when we talk about kinesiophobia, sometimes we have to start with sitting, but eventually you need to stand.
Yeah. So if you're only seeing someone for like, that 20-day window, you want to pack as much standing in there as you can in both a strengthening and a balance training focus. Don't count on one to do the job of both. You have to do both. You have to do balance exercises and you have to do strengthening exercises.
Yes.
Do both. Alternate your sessions so it works out like that. And encourage walking when you can encourage walking. When it's safe for them to walk, encourage walking. As soon as I have patients who are safe to be walking on their own in the facility, I'm like, please walk as much as you want to. Please walk more than you want to. Like, just try to get out every day and walk around. And I think that's where the strengths lie. Understanding you have a condensed time frame, but trying to pack as much as you can into there. All killer, no filler.
All killer, no filler. What does that mean?
All killer, no filler? It means like all the good stuff. No junking around.
Okay. You summarized it really well, so I don't want to add anything else.
Okay.
I do want to say really thank you, Nicole, for being here and talking with me about this very hot topic.
And if anyone has any ideas, like treatment ideas, or if anyone feels like they want to delve into some of those stats that Tali found, and let us know, man. We always love a good stat, and we always love some good conversation. So, hop in the Facebook group, post away, let us know your thoughts. It's been awesome, Tali. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Jaros Health Podcast. Go to jaroshealth.com to get the show notes for this episode and find out how you can join the Jaros community for free. You'll get access to our private Facebook group and the weekly Jaros recap, where we share our favorite reads, podcasts, and any interesting conversations in the Jaros community that week. Once again, that's GEROS health.com. Thanks for listening.